most famous physical therapist on the internet.
Hi there, folks. I'm Bob Schroe, physical therapist.
Brad Heineck, physical therapist.
Together we are the most famous physical therapists on the internet.
In our opinion, of course, Bob.
Today we're going to discuss the best 3 exercises for foot drop, return to normal walking.
Right.
It's a big problem a lot of times after a stroke.
Right.
Or a lot of times people get maybe neuropathy.
Right. Some kind of nerve
damage.
issue. Yep. Or it could be from an accident,
Sure.
some a lesion that way. But this is a system. So it's not 3 separate exercises, but they all work together.
That's right. If you're new to our channel, by the way, please take a second to subscribe to us. We provide videos how to stay healthy, fit, pain-free, and we upload every day. Also, you'll want to join us on our social media channels and our website because we're always giving something away. We're not giving away today, Saturday.
It's Saturday.
It's going to start tomorrow on Sunday.
We always take Saturday off.
Right. We're giving away kind of a cool thing. You'll have to check it out.
Oh,
go to bobandbrad.com and go to the giveaway section, or go to Bob and Brad on Facebook. It'll be pinned at the top of the page. Want a short version of us?
Yep.
Go to Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah, we're only about that tall.
That's
that
right.
One.
We're tiny.
All right, Bob. So we did do a video a few years ago on this exact same topic, but we're addressing it. The approach is a little bit different, a little bit better, I think, here. So this is an updated
systematic approach.
So if you have foot drop, in other words, you'll know you have it because it'll be typically 1 foot, and you'll hear that slopping.
That slapping, right.
That
foot slap.
Sloppy slapping foot on the floor. And you just have a hard time pulling your toes up like this, or you may not be able to at all.
You're going to catch your toe a lot too.
Exactly.
So, the one thing that you really want to distinguish between though, Brad, because quite often I'll see people they think they have foot drop and they actually have weakness in their hip.
Sure.
And they can't lift the hip up high enough.
Okay.
So, you want to make sure it is the foot.
Sure.
Not the hip that's weak.
And one way you could, test is just simply in a seated position, put your feet out in front of you and dorsiflex, or in other words, here, let me do it from the profile. Can you pull your ankles up like this all the way?
Exactly.
One side
that's
compared to the other.
Yeah.
And, it might be this is my normal foot and the other one only goes up half as far. That would be an obvious
sign. It could be a little
sign.
weak too if you bring them both up, and if you have a friend push on it.
Yep.
And they push on this one and it kind of gives way.
There you go.
But the fact, if you're still able to pull it up all the way to, for the full range, that means it should be able to clear the floor when you're walking.
Right. So, there's a couple things that could be the problem. It may be a weak anterior tib muscle, or it could be that muscle's not that weak, but tightness on the other muscles, on the calf muscles somewhere in those tissues. One way or another, you need to have that range of motion, so you want to do some stretching. So this is the first step.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways to stretch your ankle into dorsiflexion, but the best way, Bob and I feel, is either use an incline board or use one of the Pro Stretch devices here, because they really get after it aggressively.
Yeah.
Do a nice job.
So this is kind of, I think, their first phase of the Pro Stretch, and it was quite simple. You could just go in there and lean on it, and you can obviously really stretch the calf here easily. You can do it in a seated position even. You can even go like this and work on it. But I actually use this one because I use it prior to running, and I like it for plantar fasciitis. So it actually stretches the greater toe. I know I'm going off on a different subject here, but I get my foot in there just like this. Did this morning. I just give it a good old stretcher, and it's stretching the bottom of the foot too.
Stretching that whole area.
That whole posterior chain there.
So you can also, use an incline board like this, and you can make these. We actually have a video on how to make one of these if you have someone handy in the family, or you can purchase them as well. But this works really well just using body weight. And right now I'm going to stretch here. I'm going to get my gastroc, and then you also want to bend the knee and make sure you get the stretch with the knee bent.
You want it stretched both ways, in other words.
Right. And you can hold that stretch up to 30 seconds while you relax. I'm holding on to the Booyah stick just for something to balance, but you can go up to a cupboard, a wall, banister, whatever there may be, so you can relax while you're stretching.
Now, none of these are going to help the strength.
No.
These are laying the groundwork so that if the strength comes back, you've got the motion. Because if you don't have the motion and the strength comes back,
It's
you're still
not
going to have a foot drop.
right.
So
So
yeah,
this is phase one.
and what things we mentioned this a little earlier, Brad, but so you can have nerve damage, and how long does it take nerves sometimes to recover? It can
Mo-
take
Months.
12 to 18 months,
Right.
or longer,
Yep.
and they may not recover. So there's that
Right.
possibility too. In a stroke, you're relying on other parts of the brain hopefully to take over and help
Right.
out,
Right.
and swelling to go down.
Right.
So all these things take time.
Right.
So you want to make sure you have the motion while
Right.
while it's
Yeah, if you
there.
don't have the motion, doesn't matter what returns, it's
Right.
not going to work. So this is a very
Important step.
yeah, very basic part. So make sure you're stretching, getting the ankle to dorsiflexor so the toes can come up all the way. Number two is you need to strengthen, make sure you have the muscle strength to pull that ankle up, because that's the whole thing of foot drop is you're not able to dorsiflex and then your toe drags and that's the drop. Or if you come down and it falls forward and slaps. But that toe drag is so critical because that's going to make you fall.
Right.
That's going to make you trip up on the slightest little thing in the floor. So
Because what I'll see even on people, they might have enough strength to do it for 10 steps,
yep,
and all of a sudden they start to fatigue,
sure.
and then they become susceptible to catching their toe. So
There.
it's more sporadic. You don't know when
Right.
it's going to happen.
It's
So
it's a good point, Bob.
so
Now I'm going to show just a real basic way to strengthen that anterior tib, the muscles that's responsible for that pulling the toe up so it doesn't drag. And all you do is simply ankle pumps. Now you can see I've got normal strength and both feet are doing the same, but if you have foot drop, like we mentioned before, one of them is probably not going to go as high, or it may be so weak you don't have any motion. If that's the case, I like to use a cane like this for assistance, and then you're going to
it's
pull
got
it
a cane
all
with
the
kind
way
of
up.
a flat handle.
Yep.
That works the
Yeah,
best.
I call it the pistol grip.
Pistol
okay?
grip. Yep.
And
This
what,
works really well, Brad. I thought this was a great idea.
yeah, we're going to use eccentric strengthening to get it started, which is a very a proven method to strengthen a
To
muscle.
regain strength.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm going to pull it all the way up, and then I'm going to try and hold it there and take the cane away and let it down slowly. Now, if you've got really weak muscles there, that can be very challenging, particularly at first. But if you can even hold it for a half a second and then let it down, and they'll oftentimes kind of shake like that, if you can
Yeah.
see that. Very typical symptom there.
The other thing that might work would be a dog leash, Brad.
Oh.
If you put a dog leash around there and held it and
Right.
then let it go.
Yeah, you don't
know.
anything that you can use to assist that
Right.
motion.
That cane just seemed, it's really almost like it was made for it.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's
and
they
a lot of
prob-
you are going to have a cane,
Yep.
so it works out well for that. So,
So you're going to do that. 3 sets of 10 is a good thing to work up to. Now, when you start, 10 of them might be enough, and you might be so fatigued you hardly do it. Now, the nice thing about this is after you do this, it might get those muscles just kind of triggered enough where all of a sudden, if you didn't have any motion, you have a little motion. And if you even that much progress is big.
right.
That's really critical. That's a big green light. You're going to improve. So you really want to continue to work on this. Probably not 7 days a week, but I'm going to say 5 days a week. It's
I
nice
think you
to
can
give
do it a lot, in my mind, in my opinion.
Right.
So-
I'm a big believer in taking at least 1 day off. Forget about it.
All right, day of rest.
But you're going to know. People, you probably get to know
I
your
think
body.
it's one of those, because it's such an endurance muscle.
Sure.
I think you could do it a couple times a day. You
Yeah.
know, when you're in your chair,
Yep.
just and especially if you got the cane available. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And
So-
you're going to get different opinions
Yeah.
from therapist to therapist.
All right, what's
Now,
that-
the next one is this is a big one, gait training.
Sure.
Actually focus on how you walk. Now, you can use a cane. I like to use a little bit taller item. We're going to use a Boya stick because it's taller and I just
And
have more control.
Brad's got the gait belt on because you really want to be safety first here. I
Right.
mean, you do not want to fall
Yeah.
and put yourself back here.
If you're to the point where you can walk but it drags, but you feel pretty confident with your balance, you don't think you need a person, that's fine, but you probably might want a stick or a cane.
Yeah, I mean, the person would be right along with you in case you lost your balance if you didn't feel safe.
Yeah. Make sure you're safe. Have the person with you. The next thing is get a full-size mirror for some biofeedback, we call that. So you can have it on the wall. We've got one here that rolls around. It's pretty convenient. Most people don't have the roll-around ones
Right.
at home.
Right.
But then you can look at the mirror and you can actually see, you might look in the mirror and say, geez, I never realized my foot dragged, or you might circumduct. You might have some of these unusual movements that you may not be aware of until you see it in the mirror. And then when you see it, it helps your
Yeah,
mind
that's
correct.
exactly right. The
Yeah.
mind's going to help try to correct it.
So if this is my weak foot, you're going to focus on lifting it up and swinging it through. And when when a foot comes down, the heel is going to hit first. I always tell my patients, just think about your heel hitting first, because you must dorsiflex to get that to happen. So whatever it takes, so your foot is in this position. You might be looking in the mirror, might be thinking about the heel hitting first, or it might be thinking about your toes coming up towards your nose. Everyone has a little different way of thinking about it.
Sure.
The next thing is you can use hurdles. And by hurdles, you can do simply is get some 2x4s. And these, I actually went out in my garage this morning and I cut them up. They're nothing fancy at all. You should have at least 4, but it's nice to have more than 4. For this video, 4 is enough. You're going to get them a certain distance apart so that when you walk over them, now this is if you're unstable, you really need someone holding on
Right.
to you, because that could make you trip and you'd have a
Right.
fall. I'll get this out of here. So I'm going to go here, and this, if you touch the wood, obviously you didn't lift your foot up high enough. So the goal is to walk smoothly and picking up the foot, heel striking first, all the way through. It is nice to have probably up to 10 of these you could have.
Sure.
And as you feel more comfortable with it, you can tip the 2x4s up on end.
More of a challenge.
Yep. Then you got 3.5 inches to go, and you're going to go up and down and thinking about right there. The heel goes down first, forcing that anterior tib muscle to go.
So obviously it's not a natural walking pattern
No,
anymore then,
no.
but you're trying to exaggerate it so that when you do walk,
Right.
you'll have enough dorsiflexion
Right.
to get by.
You get some carryover.
Some carryover,
Yeah,
right? By
exactly.
overemphasizing
Right.
it. So
So we're gonna work on this for maybe 5 minutes or so. You don't get so, if it's hard for you, don't get frustrated with it. Take a break and come back to it.
because eventually you're going to want to work on endurance. You want to make sure the foot's going to stay held up appropriately, like
Yep.
if you go on a walk for a block.
Exactly.
Because if you
Yep.
start tripping towards the end, that's just as dangerous as if you've been tripping all
Exactly.
along.
Exactly.
so
So obviously, it's one of those things. Take your time, can be consistent, and we'll get that muscle back to work.
all
So
right,
that ankle dorsiflexes.
all right. Thanks everybody for watching.